Hello, the FBI, a number of courts, families, and retired police chiefs and other police families tied to them, and state police families interstates, and with Whiting Forensics and their campuses. They had and have time collusion slash S with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and names that next to networks before and after the World Trade Center attack. Whiting Forensics has the Mexican Navy, involved also with American Navy, American Air Force, and other types of different people with the. I never had a conversation with Rob Schedule or his sister, Don Schedule. I don't know if they have any other brothers and sisters. I never had a class with them. Never saw them on campus. They're increasingly tied to people who had relationships with themselves and other people, and they try to bring other people in the relationships as their roles with the family and as family members of probate court judges and superior court judges, prosecutors, their kids, victims advocates as time collusions with overt criminal enterprises, plural, and private ones when I was a kid, now as an adult. WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others after the World Trade Center attack, as recorded their time collusions with the Claudia Scalora and a number of people tied to the name Scalora, who have predicate acts collusions with confessions of police on my street, switching and forging names and fabricating police reports. Also at the Wethersfield Police Department, they pretended me to fake conversations that weren't at all there too. And being there as a kid and speaking with them, it wasn't when I did get arrested one time. Went down, we didn't have one word of conversation with them, and they didn't even ask me any questions. And they arrested me from an algebra class, increasingly involved with the Delafair family, made confessions, and they have roles with all three. There was four of us in the class. One of them was a Congressman Larson's reported extended family member. One of them is a Mike DeMay, involved with Allison Mulcahy and others along Hangdog Lane and Two Route Highway. And their conjunctions like the Berlin Turnpike and the Route 3, conjunctions to that and to that, like the state judicial branch officers, who are also next to Fox Connecticut News, preventing me from reporting things tied to WFSB Connecticut's Channel 3 News as the same people with the intelligence next to them in Rocky Hill. They're also at the spots next to Fox Connecticut News. And there are collusions with the FBI next to WTNH and their sources too. They have people named O'Neill involved further with campuses intercities, with fake ties to me with their kids too. And with a principal child abuser they had roles forcing. And with people who have roles with other child abusers, leaders of kids, first 4 years apart. They had roles with the first 4th part, which is recorded tied with timed uses of tactically juxtaposed distinct natures of organized crimes since I was a kid. New Britain Superior Court has a bunch of people involved, interbranch families, mayors, conjunctions to mayors, involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, the same ones with the news at the same time. WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others as mixed natures of organized crimes and as wire crime acts methods that are distinct from but also juxtapose time collusions with their wire crime acts and methods with the people who answer the phones for them and people involved with digital with them. The differences of the guilt of the intelligence at their location or next to them is juxtaposed with a whole bunch of other countries, including Saudis, increasingly being confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with Wethersfield police, like some Mendez police, as a family, with the one that attached me to fake conversation with him at the police station when I had no conversation with any officer there. And they forced Saudis to collusions with them. Also, as with Whiting Forensics, with people with the name O'Neill and others, with digital crimes with them, and with forced a principal child abuser, and with roles like putting a harassment charge and other charges, but when they put charges on people, whatever charge, they put a huge bond, and they force people to prisons that have collusions with the crime scenes, and with all kinds of, they already recorded themselves incapable of dealing with reality legitimately based on what I recorded them doing with the differences of guilt of names at each of the campuses I went or next to them is also involved. Former, like on Valley Crest Street and conjunctions to it and to that, like with people named uh, Schedule. They have roles with people named Delafera and Spada, with my neighbors named Colo, involved with the Phil Colo on my street since too, increasingly involved with predicate acts of people from Whiting Forensics and state police families interstates at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and people with the name, they said that's their cousin, people with the name Scalora. And other police confessed that involved with them forging and switching names. One of them forced himself through my door and then said, leave the Scaloras alone, to make it look like we had a conversation. Then he left. They give me a card. I don't even know if that was him because there's already before that officers have been switching names and then making confessions about that as a chilling effect, as threats and torture, extortion, and worse. They're also hiding this from Judge Napolitano. They forced him to collusions with the digital crimes of Whiting Forensics and with the people next to Fox Connecticut News involved with predicate acts with intercities, with the networks and the differences of guilt of the intelligence at or next to them. Increasingly, people with lawyers are changing and faking what others say to them, and they're just keeping all conversations changed and faked to cover up their actually recorded value and uses of it. See criminal insidiousness, criminally foreign influence, see too. I'm not even a lawyer. Lawyers, all sides of criminal and civil cases, their family members, the conjunctions to them are Trantolo and Trantolo also have relative delusions and criminally foreign influence uses of phrases like conspiracy theories with medical and sexual offenders of kids, with their own kids involved, foreign and domestic. A Leahy family also faked conversations with me as some of the doctors, increasingly involved with wire and digital crimes and rape threats, and then cover-ups of that, fake transcripts. They have judges speaking, they have judges and prosecutors personally and professionally involved with a Leahy family at Hartford Hospital. Also with a whole bunch of people that came to my street and made confessions about them when I was a kid and now since I was a kid. And increasingly, there's a Leahy family involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, uses of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie, and collusion/S. So Interbranch has forging and switching names rules. They have the Britain Superior Court has a Brian Silver also involved with them, with predicate acts with my educators behind my back. I never had a conversation with him in my life. He's also involved with medical and sexual offenders of kids as my algebra class teacher. Has also the security of the school years apart and their family members involved with shopping centers and malls and people they put in classes of mine, put fake evidences, and with people that I never even had classes with. They had to hide live progressions. So they fake conversations with me in the news. They have a Joshua Julian, increasingly involved planting evidence on all sides of my house I've never seen in my area in my life. He even confirmed that on Facebook while pretending other. He was one of the ones forcing a child abuser leader of kids with some black KKK, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, Italian theme, cultural and religious spots theme, people that are connected next to the campuses intercities, including fire campuses and medical campuses in all ages and natures of campuses. They have connections intercities. Time rolls with a method recorded at countries A through Z, keeping you guys incapable of defending your uses of your own name, your use/s of your own name, like humanity, or anyone else's name. In other words, we have been systems tactical terrier from the one that generates totally different individual species bodies, and each one of them made up of a whole bunch of different individual species bodies, and everyone with the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. So nature is showing us how to correlate/hypercorrelate what it's communicating about differences generated by nature itself, answering our questions, giving us the questions and the answers simultaneously/hyper simultaneously. So to speak, we could observe this. See, but the nature debate contains quality aspect/s and nature/s. Nature is like wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself. self-value. And self-value rules, they have replaced with James Madison, the only founder that America knows the name of. They have replaced what he communicated. And they have roles pretending other and self-value roles or sensing for the breaching method. Anyone who doesn't self-value roles pretending people other were our founders, or that they communicate properly for James Madison if they pretend such. No one even allows others to be honest about the extortion of George Washington, or it would have brought up how he was using James Madison's plan and the leverage of the founders behind him. The plan was about counter-extorting inside more than 13 colonies, with slavery already entrenched, even northern colonies and southern colonies, slavery rules. And that's against selves too, if anyone pays attention. A hyperforeign breaching method only allowed roles with that and such since semi-ancient times, to keep other things, others or selves, blamed for things that a breaching method knew would be done and demonstrated to humanity itself. A human fact tribute nature breaching method is one of the scientific values that is inseparable from all the news subjects. And their roles offensively with identity theft, fraud, slanders. Specifically, too, because nature also demonstrates there's a human fact tribute nature breaching method that is and has been using differences, tactical ulterior from how nature does, when nature is also positive onto itself. And nature shows us this, but people are getting away with pretending things are debatable by self-valuing collusion/S with fake things stacked into databases and the differences of guilt as the names at or next to the campuses we went. Per worse, keeping everyone needed to hide. That keeps overt criminal enterprises. The people countering fentanyl have the agencies already had and have collusions with all kinds of psychiatry, drugs and medicines crimes, and relative delusions. I'm not even a doctor. I delineate their delusions from their criminally foreign influence, fact, true nature, quality aspects. And nature is actually recorded, just like many Americans could and would have, had they not been using predicate acts methods like wire and mail crime methods at the same time as collusions with other countries. And then note how they have aggression and they want to debate subjects, and they are reliant upon pretending integrity of titles because of what they said. They have the F.B.I. used the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. A former director of the F.B.I., Robert Luskin, non-verbally confirmed to me roles with Thaddeus Grabowski and others next to Fox Connecticut News before and after the World Trade Center attack, involved with them with predicate acts against me. And they're also, in the fake conversations they pretended with me, they pretended I said that people were following me and that everyone is evil. They haven't done, in other words, there are a whole bunch of people tied into branch. They're recorded, used remotely when they speak about their own differences and other people's differences. We have black pupils, whites of eyes to discern this. And the breaching method, that using them, replacing the breaching method as a scientific value, inseparable from proper communications, honest communications, and sane communications. Because you guys are about James Madison and his plan. See, if anyone was, we were directed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. That was the motivation. That was the narrative. He was forced to give. Forced because no one had free speech to an extent, and everyone was forced to pretend other to an extent. And that was collusions against themselves and everyone else, and that was measured and maintained, not just by internationally monitored conversations, the difference of their guilt, the international companies, which one's guilty, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists, and then America's founders were born. That was only capable of being. We're going to observe how it is being generated as criminal insidiousness natures of positive or negative treatments themselves, even defenses of peace treatments, leaving out. Nature shows us there's a difference between criminal insidiousness natures of peace and peace. The suburbs from America to Russia to Ukraine, they were designed, honest science, insane science would have revealed they were designed while there were more than 13 colonies and slavery roles had only been remembered, having been entrenched, and then America's founders were born. That's all kind of fact, cheap nature, quality aspects in nature that can't defend itself and afford to be, let alone to protract, short words with convictions proper by nature, with theories, let alone convictions, let alone with guilt, as collusion / us. How come it's recorded that Sandy Hook prisons and other natures of campuses, intercities, have connections to the intelligence families there? Ones with the name Ray and O'Brien, too, are ones further involved with more child abusers, leaders of kids. Rick Ciampaglione was influenced to fake things in databases with a Leahy family too. Behind my back, put fake ties, fake nature ties to me since I was a little kid. I didn't even have a class with him in grammar school. The intelligence families had Rick Ciampaglione put fake me in fake locations, fake ties, fake natures ties to him behind my back to little girls. And then they told me at a fire drill, I don't even know. I've never seen them. I don't know who they are. I didn't recognize them. Never see them again. They do little things. There's always people like that who have connections, and those are the same people who have rules of World Trade Center predicate acts. The Leahy family also attached me to fake conversations with themselves about the World Trade Center, and they have collusions with former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, and various natures of federal criminals, including his co-defendants in a 2006 district court case, and their roles with names next to the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, increasingly collusions next to the networks and along Route 3 in conjunctions to into that, like the judicial branch offices and corrections offices. Sandy Hook prisons has their families, their roles with intelligence in their campuses, especially if they have one that was trained through Central Connecticut State University. Central Connecticut State University has roles: criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, with uses of the departments individually grouped in together. But this is at campuses A through Z. So we have to focus on the great part of them, the part that goes with the republic for which we stand. Needs to function properly, can't function properly without the campus's Marcia system. And pantheism, there are proofs, was more probably and demonstrably having been about the one identity of value progression that is showing us that it is generating all group differences, or it demonstrates that we are using systems tactical ulterior from its own when it is also positive onto itself, and how itself is and appreciates a special difference here, or if it's denied its system, it is forced from here. Earth's a special difference and as our own, distinctly but non-distinctly. It is the only reason we have stayed. We've been able to stay. Systems tactical ulterior from its own, when it's only also positive onto itself, for so long. The entire ocean is polluted. The result, the reactions to technical, what they call technology. The sciences individually grouped in together. They're used remotely that way. Self-guided roles, too, sensing for the breaching method of any body, not self-guided roles, including if there are a majority of people, including if it's everyone, and it is adapted to. The breaching method showed them how to react when people tried to defend James Madison. His communications, which are distinct from what he said. They left declassified means for us to discern where and how what everyone said was measured and maintained. And the differences of guilt with that was also used functionally, with everyone leaving out the hyperforeign also involved. That which had slavery, for example, entrenched in the southern colonies and northern colonies, sickly distinctly, but sickly non-distinctly. And that is measured and maintained self-guided rules with that logic and reason dependent on that reality replaced. They have our founders framed acutely as collusion / us with the people attacking our founders, pretending they had slavery roles. And people defending them, pretend they're a collusionist shell game, replacing with our founders. Only James Madison's plan is defending us. But that defense is was, replaced, even though it's known. Guys need to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. Nature itself would have shown you this. You guys can't be honest about nature or James Madison simultaneously, / hyper simultaneously. Nature shows us this too. So they have all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes and fake transcripts. This breaching method knew that multiple courts, the people with the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, which is also foreign and domestic military, people with the name Cololo, DeMoro, they have share a cousin named Scalora. There were also people with the name Kerr and Aptet and Abate involved with the corner of Saustine Highway and Town Line Drive. Also with the confessions of the people involved with the F.B.I. director and the campuses with predicate acts of foreign countries and the World Trade Center attack. People that had roles with home break-ins in my house, in my area, years apart, too, have roles with people named Scalora and people with confessions pretended other about state police, etc. People speak about the value of their job, as judges, prosecutors, they leave out their collusion / S, as the breaching method knew they would do at countries A through Z. Right through world wars, they have collusions with the foundation of psychiatry, concentrated, manifest collusions with the interbranch in intelligence, foreign and domestic, at all natures of crime scenes, as the difference of the formal collusions there or the private tied to them. So these are the triages throughout the country and intercities. They have roles for predicate acts methods with retired Wethersfield police chiefs and a bunch of people tied to them, to proven child abusers, leaders of kids first forced. The same names had time collusions with the elderly homes, the same names with the Saustine Highway. And they have wire crime acts and methods of Wethersfield police with Wethersfield Pizza House and the businesses like at the corner of Saustine Highway and Town Line Drive. Increasingly with the people with the direct and indirect roles, with people involved with home break-ins in my area, and confessions over the phone about that as police forms before they were police. They hid what I recorded them doing because they were planting evidences between the campuses I went and at the corners of the streets on them, with confessions tied to it. Confessions designed to pretend they knew me. Then years later, they're using the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. As collusions with the syntax of James Comey and other FBI directors, like former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, Robert Luskin, has collusions next to the networks, intercities, interstates, federal and internationally, per worse involved, there, here, and there, at the campuses too, A through Z. The names of the people, the sciences, are still grouped criminal and insidious natures of positive and negative treatments and exceptions treatments and special difference treatments, and replacing what James Madison communicated, self-bodied roles, otherwise that body is sensed. Oh, but this person's an expert on James Madison. Get down. Please have forgiveness for the people telling, etc., and focus on the predicate acts I mentioned. Who disbelieves? I'm not even a lawyer. Watch what I thought the lawyer is doing too. Collusion with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the interbranch and intelligence and news and names next to crime scenes are kept self-bodied roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the same sequence shifts at the same time, the same World Trade Center predicate acts. They have self-bodied roles because they're pretending they have free speech with subject treatments. The Democrats, whatever leader comes above them, and the Republicans, whatever leader comes before them, they're hurt in such a way through the breaching method, but through our own, to make them have needs for defenses of themselves, like legally, which their leader voices can't defend their fact sheet nature, quality aspects in nature as actually value recorded, and afford the short words of anyone else proper, even in other words, their difference, they're leaving out exceptions, exception nature, and special difference. We have black people's right to lies to discern. The law names that countries A through Z have worse than criminal incompetence and collusions, replacing with James Madison, the only founder we know the name of, what he communicated. And they're covering up their roles with whole predicate acts methods by offensively pretending, changing, and faking what people say, and then relying upon the agencies faked and changed digital evidences, fake mail crime acts and methods they use. And the news plants evidences with them, and then they use that. All natures of investigations, investigators in their campuses originally instilled as recorded how they were and are used remotely, criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, raw. Self-bodied roles pretending otherwise sensing for the breaching method, any body not self-bodied roles, including that body was a majority of people, or is, and it's still adapted to, including if it's every one of an entire country united as a voice. As long as we're still entertaining locations, areas, and states, the sciences abridged as they are from off all ages and natures of campuses, but then hyper additional collusions there because it needs it that way to keep itself screened in the future too. Increasingly, people named Colot and O'Brien and CM Paglione made confessions and demonstrations of their roles with federal evidences, crimes, identity theft and frauds, and fake motive screening with people at the corners of the streets of a principal child abuser's campus roles. And Rick Cianfaglione and others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Aaron Murphy who had a boyfriend reportedly named Kevin Harris. Kevin Harris is increasingly involved with medicines and drugs crimes with kids, with prosecutors and judges, like a Brian Silver, involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, fake. I never had a word of conversation with Kevin Harris. I never saw him around campus one time. There are proofs that he was walking out of a door behind me one time to make it look like other. They've been planting evidences on all sides of the campus, fake ties, fake nature ties, by acting so other people could take pictures intercities with the people involved out next to the campuses, with the news too, with predicate acts. Whole bunch of people from other areas planted this. My algebra class teacher has roles with the police forms, retired and standing. With when I was arrested, when I was inside the class, they made me go get arrested while I was at school. Increasingly, a Mike Domain has roles with Miss Riley, and she made repeated sexual things and made it Jewish oriented. And with a Mike Domain, he has roles with Allison Mulcahy with his confessions and demonstrations of their roles with Fox Connecticut News and the intelligence next to them, a bunch of people tied to them. Also, collusions all along Two-Road Highway and Hangdog Lane and all sides of that, like with the Mulcahy family. Also with Thaddeus Grabowski. The only time I was ever in her presence was right before a 2006 district court case, where it was demonstrated that and recorded Allison Mulcahy and some Mendez police too, ones that involve further with proven child abusers, leaders, and kids. They have the collusions with the New Britain Superior Court in the hallway of the court with a bunch of foreign and domestic people involved, also with the Wethersfield police station, with fake transcripts, fake ties to little kids, with foreign and domestic countries and medical families, intercities. A bunch of people next to Hartford Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut have collusions intercities with names next to the campuses. And next to the campuses I went, increasingly involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fake motivations for uses of my name. They don't even know me. All exceptions show that what's actually recorded. They're influenced to hide their motivations for that too. Preemptively, simultaneously, because of past reasons and what's actually recorded grouped that are shown, they need to hide live aggressions. So please get them on paper, one name and sequence. But please, Fox News, do what's right and get WFSB off. Get me off of fake conversations and ties to them and others. and get them on paper with the interbranch forging and switching names. And people like Trantolo involved with wire crimes with them, mail crimes with them, and child abusers, leaders of kids. Same names have time collusions with elderly homes and elderly programs. The same names have time collusions with names with the bordering countries and bordering states. And as people involved with the World Trade Center attack, get them on paper, and all will get on track. Vaccines.